Let's try this. Okay, I think scene is my little, yep, there we go. So, just as kind of an added bonus to the Home of HeroQuest fans, XSC3 on YouTube, I've been doing these, what I call HeroQuest Vibes videos, where it's originally how I was going to do the whole thing, just show off some of the created things that I'd made for HeroQuest, some of the fan-made mods for the classic board game, and just set to music. And usually wearing white gloves because I mean the stuff was brand new and I didn't want to mess it up. And I thought, oh, it's just kind of like an artistic way to do it, kind of cheesy, kind of silly. But they're not very popular, so I thought, well, I don't know. I still want to share them, but it's kind of like filler when we don't have like a regular show going. But in any case, one of the questions that I got with those vibes videos is, well, can you tell us how to use these cards, for example, or new tiles, and then how do you make them? Well, to the second question, how do you make them? So this is paint.net. So this is low budget. I don't use Photoshop. Photoshop's pretty expensive these days. And I mean, that's always what people think of. I mean, even the term to Photoshop, has become the household word, a phrase for image editing software. But really, there's all kinds of image editing software out there. There's one called GIMP, GIMP, that a lot of people like. Paint Shop Pro was a popular alternative like 20 years ago when I started doing graphic design type stuff. And I mean, I'm not a professional. A lot of this stuff is just self taught. I mean, there's all kinds of tutorials online. Now it's easier than ever to learn how to use these programs. But let's say you want to make something, you want to make a new card, tile in the style of HeroQuest. The easiest way that I found to do it is yes, if you go to places like Ye Olde Inn, there are templates that you can download that people have created. But I found that a lot of them are like pretty old, so they're low resolution. I mean, I have a scanner. I so I'll what I like to do is I'll get a good clean copy of something that I'm using as a template. So let's say I'll scan the character card or one of the spell cards or something and kind of clean it up in the image editing software, which in this case is called paint.net. I use paint.net. It's free. I don't get paid by them. It's just what I happen to use. And I find that you can download plugins for it that give you a lot of functions similar to like what Photoshop has out of the box or, GIMP or Paint Shop Pro or whatever you like to use. I mean, it's not MS Paint, that's for sure. But anyway, yeah, so I get that template. I, kind of clean it up and then start adding layers. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So I'll just kind of show you. If everything is running slow, it's because I'm running this program on top of everything else. So sorry about that. But yeah, so if you can see over here, so I got my layers. So like this is just an example. So this is Fire of Wrath. So I've captured each of the elements and kind of cleaned them up. So you've got the description text. You've got the image, and usually I just stack images on top of each other. Once I get a layout that I like, I'll add more layers, kind of stretch out the little picture in the center representing whatever it is, a spell, a treasure, artifact, whatever it happens to be. And I mean, the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. I was trying to create something that looks like it kind of fits with the old deck, but sometimes I'll add little flares. I'll put, borders around it, just like the European cards have, or just keep it more clean like the North American cards. We have some old sets that are kind of aged and the cards are yellowed, so the background will be more yellow or kind of off white rather than pure white, whereas a newer set it might be white. And of course, the new remake set, it is like parchment, simulated parchment. So then you got your title, so Fire of Wrath in this case, and then of course the background. So you just kind of maneuver those around, and I use transparency a lot so I can line up the text. And a lot of times when you scan something, like the text will be a little fuzzy, because yeah, it'll never quite be as sharp as the originals. Because even when I've had these professionally printed, I mean, I'm not trying to spend a ton of money on it. So yeah, maybe you would print a card for 50 cents from like Board Games Maker or making Make Playing Cards Company. There's lots of other ones. There's Printing Studio. There's all kinds of places. But before that, I was just taking it to like the local office supply store and just printing it out on their little printer on paper and just cutting out with the scissors and then just take a little sliver of cardstock to kind of make it thicker and then slip it into a Ultra Pro clear sleeve and just playing. So you do whatever you want. Some people like to print it out on sticky paper and then like apply the sticky paper to cardstock. I mean, there's so many things you can do. It's just whatever your needs are. So, I mean, I've created these things, these little designs, these modifications, and not to sell or anything, just to kind of pad out the deck, make HeroQuest a little more interesting with some house rules, and then give them away as gifts to family and friends. It's kind of what I do with my stuff. So here, it's just really simple. And then when you're done, you just go up here and you flatten the image, and then that turns it into it's all single layer, and then save as. And I give it a PNG extension, and then you've got this individual image, and then you go to your website, whatever it might be, Make Playing Cards or Printer Studio, or there's so many different ones. Usually they'll just have a web page, and you just drag and drop the files into the little spaces, and it'll show you the front of the card and the back of the card and how it's going to look and the bleed area. It's really easy, and then you'll send away for it, and then they'll send it back to you in a couple of weeks to a month. Excuse me, and I just had lunch before the stream. And then you get your cards back, and they're great, you know. And they're never going to confuse anybody about which ones are vintage and which ones are homebrew. Some people like to put a little mark on it somewhere showing, hey, this is a homebrew, just in case somebody tries to sell it, pretending that it's like legit. But the point is not to defraud anybody. The point is to just take your house rules and bring them out of the realm of, okay, this is just in my imagination. This is just scribbled on a piece of paper to, oh, this is a physical object that I can put into the game to enhance it. So you've got like the Evil Wizard deck or the Zargon deck, which allows the GM in HeroQuest to just draw cards. So let's say on his turn he doesn't have any monsters on the board. He can draw a card, and the card is some like random event. So let's say he gets to pull a wandering monster out to attack one of the heroes, or a trap appears, or one of the pieces of furniture comes to life and turns into a monster, or somebody loses one of their potions, stuff like that. And it can be kind of cheap, but I mean, it's totally random. And the homebrew rules say that Zargon can only hold up to 3 of them in his hand at a time. He can, of course. And if he wants to draw another one, he needs to discard or use one of the cards he's already got. And actually, that homebrew rule is from Ye Olde Inn. I think it's Sheng who, I don't know if he came up with it first, but his cards are the ones that are on there. And the original idea actually comes from Space Crusade, from StarQuest, the other Milton Bradley Citadel Miniatures game, that was inspired by Warhammer 40,000, which inspired Space Hulk. It's kind of the sister game to HeroQuest, the futuristic version of HeroQuest, if you will. Also designed, at least in part, by Stephen Baker, and he actually likes it better than HeroQuest. So my copy of Space Crusade is on its way. There's a little story I'll tell about that, but first let me finish up here. So yeah, Space Crusade, the alien player, who is like the equivalent of Zargon in that game, the evil GM character who controls all the monsters, he gets this deck called the Alien Events, and he would flip these cards over. And at his basic level, he just gets to flip one over each turn. But on his higher levels, he could actually hang on to some of these cards and like use them later. So that's where the concept came from. So what fans have done is they've taken concepts from similar games to HeroQuest, and they've modified them into HeroQuest. So I think that's cool. So the combat cards that you see, the pure fighting heroes, the non-magical heroes will draw those cards randomly, and they'll have like a little heroic feat they can do in the middle of a quest. So instead, they don't get magic, but they get, like a roundhouse or a heroic sacrifice or, hidden reserves or, block and parry and riposte, whatever. So those are great. But that whole concept of the combat cards is similar to the equipment or orders cards that were in Space Crusade. So in Space Crusade, instead of controlling one hero and maybe some hired mercenaries, you would control a commander, Space Marine commander, and then his Space Marine squad. So you'd have like 5 to 7 of these guys, or I guess you could be an Eldar, which is like a space elf, and you'd have 5 to 10. But you'd be controlling these little squads, and your leader, he could draw these. He would at the beginning he would draw these cards, and so he would have orders or equipment that he could use. But yeah, it's the same basic concept. Of course, there you're dealing with a group instead of just one, so it's interesting. And a lot of the other things I did were just more of the same. So most of the stuff I created, I wanted it to feel like this fits in with the game that you've already got. So another image that I show here, these alchemist items, like what the heck are those, right? So you can see the design. If you grew up in my era, maybe you remember something called Cliff's Notes. So you go to college or high school or whatever education, and you're trying to cram for some exam. Got the big test, the big project, and it was criticized because they would sell these little yellow booklets with black lines on them. And I guess they did that because that's sort of, you're driving down the road and you see these safety signs and it's supposed to be like warning, warning, it's an emergency. And so you would have people that like they didn't study all semester or they just didn't understand the book or they were too lazy to do it. And so they buy this condensed version that gives you the main points, the outline, and you're supposed to just memorize that and you'll ace the test or you'll get by. The criticism was always, oh, this is a shortcut. This is a condensed version. This encourages people not to try to do their best and so on. But I like the design because I was thinking, okay, I'm doing this demagikified mod for HeroQuest where you've got, instead of magic, you've got alchemy, you've got mentalism, you've got devices, technology, and yet it's still set in the same high fantasy, sword and sorcery, HeroQuest world, loosely based on Warhammer fantasy. So instead of wizards, you've got alchemists. Well, I had a lot of fun coming up with ways to duplicate like the effects of the magic spells, but in a non-magical way. And I thought, what would the artifact that's known as a spell scroll be? Because the spell scroll the idea was, okay, you find a scroll and you could be the barbarian, you could be the dwarf. You wouldn't have to know any magic at all. You read the scroll and it gives you fire of wrath and then it crumbles to dust. Well, what would the demagikified alchemist version of that be? Well, so the alchemist items. So you've got the Cliff's Notes version. So the barbarian doesn't know anything, but he can rip open this package and he's got one use of healing tonic. He's got simple instructions that explain how to do it. He uses it and that's good to go. But I found these photos, these stock photos of these emergency rations. See how it says 5 years shelf life? And it's got the black and yellow on it. It's like a survival, like prepper type thing. So you've got these packets, these freeze-dried packets. You assume it'd be like food or a first aid kit or, flares or something. But the idea would be that the heroes would find these and you could trade them to each other. And it's just kind of a clever way to do the magic substitute. And also because I'm not like an ace digital artist or anything, you could just use stick figures, just like a safety sign. So it's fun because you have this vast library of these stick figures images online, and you can easily mix and match them, modify them. And so here for the healing tonic, which replaces water of healing, you've got the guy, and it's like you've got the universal symbol of health or first aid, safety, and he's got the little thing above his head that it's like a little watering can full of this healing liquid, this chemical that heals him up. So it just says it's like step 1, extend nozzle. Step 2, squeeze handle. Step 3, apply to wounds. And then I even put this little symbol in the corner to show you that it's water based. So if you're keeping track of like what alchemical school it's from, that's the symbol for water in alchemy. So, and I just put single use anyone hero. It's very simplified, very easy to read. But again, these are just layers. So you got your layer for the drawings. There are other things that I added on for other ones. So lighting instructions. So you got your text. And in this case, I would do the body of text and then kind of rotate it with the rotating tool so that it looks like you're viewing it from an angle. And the thing is, all this silver stuff on the edge, that gets cut off because this is just like bleed area. So it's more like this is what you see right here. That's the card. But you want to create all this extra stuff on the edges because when they print it, the machine actually cuts it. And so you'll lose some of the image. So you want the stuff on the very edge to be stuff that you don't care that much about. But it's not just white space. It's not just black. You'll notice a lot of professional cards will have like a white border or a black border. That's an easy way to do it. But what these websites want you to do is extend the image to the edge. So again, I'm not a super guru with this stuff, but I mean, I know enough to be able to combine some images, use some layers, some transparency. It's really simple. And in the end, I mean, the effects are really good because it just adds so much to that experience when you're playing a board game and you've got an actual physical card that you can use that has a colorful picture or a simple, straightforward explanation of how you use whatever it is it's in front of you. Because you can always just use your imagination, or you can scribble it on a piece of paper. Oh yeah, you've got a potion that gives you 2 combat dice and restores 3 body points. Oh, that's cool. But if you have an actual card, it's that much nicer. Just like how you can use any miniature to represent any other miniature in a game. You don't have to have a Wounded Knight as Sir Ragnar. You just use the Chaos Warlock figure that represents anything from the Witch Lord to a princess to whatever. This one here is just, I was kind of playing around with it. I haven't quite perfected what I'm deciding to do with it. So in the HeroQuest remake, the hero cards, the character cards, they've got one for each character, and it kind of gives you a summary of what you can do on your turn. They just use regular size cards. The problem I have with that is it's so small. It's easy to get lost with the rest of the deck. It's harder to just refer to. The original HeroQuest had these big character boards. They were actual like thick, large tiles. In the European version, they were much bigger. But I thought, well, I like that idea of having it be big, but printing it out. I mean, some of these websites, yeah, you can do custom like board game parts. They're expecting you to actually make a board game that you're planning to sell. So, you're going to print hundreds or thousands of copies. I'm just printing like 1 or 2 for myself, maybe for a friend. So it doesn't really make sense for me to do that, to pay that extra money for a completely customized thing. So my 2 solutions are, one, I'm going to just approximate the size. So maybe like in this version, it's actually an oversized playing card. So it's not as thick as a tile, but it's got some extra space on the top and bottom. See this brown border, that dark brown border? That is what you would normally see on the actual character board. But I added this other stuff because there'd be extra room. So it's like, okay, well, I can put some extra explanatory text there, and then you flip it over, and there's more stuff on the back. I wasn't sure if I really liked it, but that's one solution. The other is just to simply print it out full size, just at like an office supply place, because I don't have a fancy printer anymore these days. I mean, yeah, it's just too expensive and too much of a hassle. All the maintenance, they're always breaking down, and you got to buy the toner or the ink, and it's too much for me these days. So I don't mind paying some business to basically do it for me, or allow me to use their equipment to do it, assuming it's not just black and white, which, yeah, I can manage that. So I print it out, and then just use a glue stick, like a kid's glue stick, basically. It's like this ones I use, it's purple glue, and you just rub it all over the edge of the paper, back of the paper, and then you just apply it to some cardstock. But even better than the cardstock is chipboard. So I actually bought some sheets of chipboard. Before that, it was funny because I was just scavenging chipboard wherever I could find it. So if I had used up a legal pad or notebook, the back cover, I'd use that. I've heard of people using cereal boxes. It's a little flimsy for me. But you get a pack of these sheet protectors, and in the back there's just a cardboard backing. Instead of throwing that out, cut it up, glue your paper to it, cut it once it's dry, cut it out with scissors. It makes a pretty good tile. I mean, it's not like die cut like with a machine, but it looks pretty good. It feels pretty good. And as long as it's thick enough, it's not going to like curl. Although you could put some heavy books on top of it until it's completely dry, just to make sure it's going to be stiff and function like a tile. I've actually done quite a few of those. So especially if it's an odd size like that, I'll just use chipboard. You can buy that at a hobby store. So around here, I mean, everybody's got their own places they like to go, but instead of going to like a Mayhem or a Games Workshop type place where you're going to pay top dollar, one of these nerdy like comic book tabletop gaming stores where everything's at a premium. Instead, just go to like a Hobby Lobby or Joann Fabrics or even like Walmart and get the stuff. Buy yourself a big huge sheet of the stuff and then just cut it up. You can buy just all kinds of things. I love going to hobby stores. Dollar stores sometimes will have stuff, but a lot of times it's just not in the quantity that I'm looking for. But if I just needed a really small thing, sure, that'd work. It's fun just repurposing just everyday objects that are cheap and just turning it into something really cool to use for a board game. I just love doing that. I love going in there and getting a sheet of felt and cutting it up and gluing that to some wood, and boom, you've got a dice rolling box. Or taking a cheap plastic cup meant for a kid's birthday, from Walmart. They've got their little party section, and all these businesses I don't have any stock in them. I'm just mentioning them as examples. But yeah, you get one of those plastic cups and you can line it with felt on the inside with a little bit of glue and wrap some faux leather vinyl around the outside, and it looks like you've got this leather felt dice rolling cup. It's like another thing you can do, and it's so easy, it's so simple, and what you get is a really cool like piece that you can use to enhance your game, or you can spend like 10 times more getting a professionally made one from one of these gamer stores or order it online. And yeah, you order it online, it's cheap, but the shipping is through the roof and you got to wait forever. And all it is, a lot of times, like the stuff on Etsy, I mean, I love going to Etsy, but a lot of times it's just the person on the other end did the same thing. So all you're doing is you're paying them to do the work, so that you can just pick it up. But I enjoy the process of creating it, and then I enjoy implementing it on the board. So I guess that's why I do it. It's a fun little hobby. But yeah, you can see the layers here. It's just really simple. Just mostly a text layer, image layer, a lot of use of the rubber stamp. I mean, it's called different things, but or the clone stamp, where you copy part of the background and then you basically paste it over the image so that you can remove an image and just have a clean background, more or less. I mean, if you look really closely, you can see, oh, there's a little bit of a pattern there. And you can, copy and paste different sections so it doesn't, you break up the camouflage, so to speak, so it's not just the same image repeated over and over again. It's not just a big smear where the previous image used to be. But yeah, you erase the hero that was there and put an image of another hero. This one is just taken from Pinterest. I think it's actually from Pathfinder. So again, nothing intended to confuse people with that, but a lot of those images are out there that you could modify to your liking into something else, and you're not going to sell it commercially. So anyway, that's paint.net. That's what I do. That's how I make all my cards. There's other people out there that are much more talented in terms of just like creating their own. Like I've heard of people that create their own paintings, like they'll make an actual painting or like a pen and ink drawing, like a really high quality drawing of a perfectly original thing. Like, oh, here's an elf like putting a key into a lock or something, rather than just taking a pre-existing image and modifying it to your liking. But you do what you want, and most of the people that create these things will just put it out there in good faith, saying, "Hey, if you want to use this for fun for your own non-commercial project, go for it." And I think that's great. So that's the process that I use. That's behind the custom stuff. All right, and I'm just going to take a quick look over at the chat here. So yeah, it's nice to get back into the swing of things with the stream. So I apologize if we weren't on last week. Um, I know that the buzz, so to speak, in the HeroQuest world has kind of died down a little bit. So we had all this news, and then all of a sudden it was quiet again. The latest thing, and I'm just passing along a rumor that was passed along by another person from the community, Amalgamash. He may have said more about this, but the last thing I heard from him in Discord was that somebody on Facebook had said that they had heard the Barbarian Questback remake is coming out this August. Okay, if that's true, that's great. Of course, could be just wishful thinking, or even if it's factual, it could change, of course. All right, sorry, just fixing up the stream here. There we go. Sorry about that. So the next thing I want to talk about, I've been waiting quite a bit. I mean, there have been a lot of delays with the mail these days. So I've had to wait, and I would be ready to do a stream, and then it's like all the stuff I talked about, like I don't have my show and tell materials. So now I do. So I just want to show you a few things here. So this, as you can see, these are orcs from Battle Masters, pretty standard. I've already shown everybody my set that I have. Well, what I kind of wanted to do was the idea would be to have these reinforcements. So you've got your standard deck of Battle Masters cards, and every so often you'll get a card that'll say reinforcements at the bottom. And originally I thought, well, let's say a dead unit, you get to bring them back if you get that card. The only problem is you're going to have to shuffle those cards out of the deck the second playthrough, because you go through the stack and then you go through it again. You reshuffle it, go through it again. You're going to keep getting your units back. The game may never end. Like you're going to have to quickly kill off the other guy's units so before he gets the reinforcement card. But then I thought, well, it's just not much fun to do it that way, to have just the same units coming back. So I thought, well, what if you could get a special unit? And I'm not trying to spend all my money on miniatures, but what if you, instead of these, or let's say these, you had some brand new ones? And these are made by Citadel, these miniatures. Citadel is just what they call the Warhammer figures. I mean, the whole reason that Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer RPG and Warhammer 40K and Age of Sigmar, the whole reason those exist is to sell these little plastic guys. I mean, they used to be all metal, but metal and plastic. Now it's mostly plastic. The whole reason is to sell them. Well, they come up with all these different games, but those games are just suggestions on how to use the figures. You can use them for whatever you want. And some people buy them only to paint them and put them on a shelf. That's it. They don't even play the game. They don't bother building terrain and rolling dice and moving rulers around and so forth. Well, Battle Masters. Oh, another thing I gotta show you. So this is poster tack. This stuff, like there's so many names for it. I think the original was called blue tack. I've never actually seen blue tack, but there's poster tack, there's poster putty, there's sticky tack. I think sticky tack is what I'm used to calling it. But it's kind of like in between like clay and chewing gum and an eraser. It doesn't degrade, it doesn't dry out. So it's chemically produced, but it's supposed to be non-toxic. But yeah, you stick this to the wall and you stick your poster to it so it'll stick. I've found so many uses for this. So like, let's say you're painting a miniature. I'll just give you an example. Yes, this is a new acquisition. This is a Warhammer Fantasy Elf, and I did not paint this. I just bought it. It was cheap because it was already painted and already glued to the base. So I actually bought this glue debonder stuff that lets you remove super glue safely from plastic. Hasn't arrived yet though. It might, for all I know, it's going to arrive in today's mail after the stream is over. But if I get that stuff, I would love to talk about it on the next stream. But anyway, let's say you've got this guy and let's say you're trying to paint him. Well, one thing that people do is they buy these expensive, like official Games Workshop, painting stands. Well, here's what I do instead. I'll just show you. Sorry, just had to pop over to my little workshop for a second there, my low budget studio. So yeah, this poster tack, it comes in different colors. There's like blue and green and white, gray. So when I'm painting a figure, this is what I'll do. So this is just a bottle of paint. This is pretty typical. Like I'll buy this really cheap acrylic stuff and you can mix it with water or you can just slop it right on there with your brushes. I mean, you get a huge amount for a low price. So that's why I like it. So rather than buying these expensive paints, and I don't do any airbrushing, so I know that there's a lot of people that love airbrushing, and yeah, it looks great. I feel like you use up a lot of paint using it that way, but I guess it all just depends on what you want to do. I don't mind painting. It's kind of relaxing, kind of fun. So you take your figure, take a little bit of sticky tack. I mean, this is way more than I would need. Let's say just stick that on there. Ta-da! And obviously, you'd get your paint out before you do this. And I've got so many of these bottles, it's just really easy. And then you can paint it around. And I'm not a world-class painter. I'm still learning. Like I've painted mostly just furniture and stuff. And when I paint figures, I'm usually just adding like little details. I'm not starting from scratch and making it super fancy. A lot of times I'll just make it all one color, or maybe do a wash, which is just where you dilute the water or dilute the paint. Water's already diluted. Dilute the paint and you just kind of splash it on and it fills in the cracks and the crevices to give it a little more texture. So anyway, that's the thing I do. But another thing I use this poster tack or sticky tack for is I'll use it to stick figures in there. Because see these Battle Masters figures, they use these little tabs. I guess they call it slot base. So see that base, like the slot it just kind of goes in there. And it doesn't fit perfectly, so you glue it. But sometimes I've noticed people have like trimmed it with the scissors or a knife. Maybe they put it in, they pull it out so much that it's loose in there. So the poster tack gives it a little more purchase in there. Works pretty well, and it doesn't damage it or anything. Sorry, it's a little dry in here. Yeah, I'm in a small building and they turn the heat up because it's really cold out there. Not as cold as it has been, but it just gets a little dry. So anyway, little things like that are fun. Well, let's say we were gonna do that. Take some Warhammer figures. I got these. They're actually called High Elf Archers. I don't care. They're elves to me, and they're already in these individual bases, which aren't bad. Well, what I want to do is remove them from the bases carefully, retaining that little plastic tab, and then inserting them into these things. Because let's say these guys get killed, take them off the board, but they get the reinforcements card. You just remove these guys, stick these guys on. And actually, I could just use the poster tack, stick them right on there. See? I think it looks cooler if they're actually in the groove there, but that's something you can do. Another thought that I had, and I saw someone had done this, they 3D printed one of these unit trays that they call them unit trays, except that instead of these grooves like that, they put cutouts in them that were the exact shape of like HeroQuest figures. So you could just put the HeroQuest figures inside, and it was exactly perfect. That's kind of cool. So I might do that because well, let's say I want to have like an extra tray, and instead of going on eBay and trying to find one of these and rip up somebody else's set, I would just get one that has the holes already cut, so to speak. Because these bases are not the same as HeroQuest bases. I mean, this is like a perfect square, more or less. Looks like it's probably about 22, 23 millimeters. I haven't measured it, but HeroQuest, it's like a squeezed hexagon. But another thing are these elves, these dwarfs. I think they look pretty cool, and they look almost like they belong in Battle Masters. They're kind of cartoony, so these guys would easily work for a unit like that. And I even came up with a little solution. I don't have them in front of me, but see how his fist is like that? It's like he's just holding his fist to his chest. Why is he doing that? Is it just a pose? Well, what you're supposed to do with these Warhammer figures is they come with shields, and you're supposed to paint the shield and like glue it to his fist. But what I wanted to do is just put a little poster tack there and take a Tiddlywink, which is this game where you use these thin plastic discs, if you ever played it. It's not just for kids anymore. But anyway, you take the Tiddlywink and you stick it on, and it's the perfect size to be like a dwarven shield. And the other cool thing is it's a bright color and everything, so it could be like everybody has a green one or a blue one or whatever. And you can take print out a shield design on sticky paper, cut it out, and stick it to the shield. Because in Battle Masters, you'll notice their shields are all stickers. These are stickers. See, look, it even almost looks like a tiddlywink, doesn't it? But this is the original. So when I realized that I thought I've got a solution, and I love coming up with little solutions like that. And I'm sure somebody else has thought of the same thing years ago, and I just didn't know about it. But when I thought of it on my own, I thought this is going to be great. So I haven't done those sticker shields yet, but when I do, I'll show them off to you. So yeah, the crafting side of things can be a lot of fun, but ultimately I want to actually use it in the game. I want to use it at the gaming table. Gassan PL is here. Yes, he's saying my camera is like 1 frame per second. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, at this time, I'm not sure what I can do to improve it. I think my network is having some issues, but I didn't want to not stream, but thank you for letting me know. So I'll just go ahead and show those again. You can see if it was like really blurry or choppy. So these are the figures I'm going to be using, and I'm probably not going to change anything about them except removing the bases and putting them on the unit tray for Battle Masters. See, because that's what a typical Battle Masters unit looks like. And here are the bad guys. This is just a little plastic flag. You could use a bamboo skewer trimmed and make your own flag out of some sticky paper. or paper that's been glued. Tiddlywink shields. Here's the other thing I want to show you. So this is obviously from Board Games Maker. Check this out. You got all these people telling me about battle foam. It's like, oh, I spent 50 bucks on this big piece of foam to put in my box. Well, check this out. It's free. This furniture foam or chair foam or padding. Instead of throwing this away, go ahead and use it. I mean, it's pretty simple. You really don't need it too much. I mean, if you're using resin or metal, okay, but these are 3D printed plastic miniatures from Make Playing Cards Company, sister site of Make Playing Cards Company, I should say, which is called Board Games Maker. It's plastic. Yeah. So it's not the same exact type of plastic, but that's a Fimmer. And really, can you see the detail? It's obviously 3D printed, but it's pretty good. I was pretty impressed. So they did it at the resolution of the model, of course, and then they must have done some airbrushing paint on it. So, and the green, it's obviously a bright green. I mean, you can't even tell from my camera, but it's a really bright green compared to the the Hero Quest green, which would be like dark green like that. So this almost looks black compared to this. But still, it would be certainly stand out on the battlefield. And you could, like put the guy in there like that. So I got a bunch of those, and these were not cheap. These are probably like $10 a figure, which when you think about it, that's like buying a metal figure. I mean, I think plastic has some advantages to metal. It seems a little sturdier depending on the plastic. Looks almost as good. Yeah, it's not heavy. I mean, it's lightweight, but I really think it's great. And they did a good job on it. But yeah, I wouldn't do this all the time, printing these, because I mean, I can buy a Reaper Bones miniature for like $2 to $5, and it looks pretty good. And it's got the bendy plastic. They got Reaper Bones, which is like the bendy plastic, and then they've got Reaper Bones Black, which is a little more stiff. But it's not like this stuff, this styrene, which is kind of brittle. I mean, if I were to bend this bow, you'd see stretch marks on it, and then it would break. It would snap off. With this, it would give, there's a little bit of give to it. It's a little bit stronger. I think it's PLA, or it's made of something similar to that. And it would, I mean, it'd still break, but then those rubbery ones, I mean, you could bend them all day long, and you wouldn't be able to break them. You'd need like a scissors or something. So that's what I had printed. The other thing that I did were these, and these are STL files that other people have put out there. So like on Thingiverse or Cults 3D, these are dark elves, but I just thought they looked really cool, and I wanted to print them in blue. So again, Board Games Maker, and I'm just moving slower because of the frame rate thing. So you got one guy with a sword and shield. Looks very similar to, it's like someone took the Hero Quest elf and they just added some bits and bobs to him and remixed him with some other figures to make a new character. There's one with a crossbow. So I thought they turned out really well. You can see there's some lines there, but It really doesn't matter that much. And it's a deep blue color. It's not the icy blue color of the actual ElfQuest pack. But yeah, I had fun. Now I had to wait a long time for these, but I figure this will be enough for what I want to do. I wanted to recreate the court of the Elf Queen for the Hero Quest expansions, just for more flavor. And these guys I'm probably going to use for Battle Masters, but you could really use anything you want. The Chaos player would have these, and then the Imperial side would have elves and dwarves. So these are Warhammer. These are 3D printed. And actually, this is fan made, but this is based on, I think they call it the rare one. I don't know if it's the original metal Fimmer from Warhammer Fantasy Battle from like the 80s, but if not, it's one of the first. So it's really similar. I actually think the Hero Quest pose for the Fimmer is much cooler because he's got his axe over his head and his fist raised. He just looks cool. Whereas this guy is just like, okay, I'm going into battle. Whereas the other guy is like, he's in a rage. He's just attacking. So just wanted to show those off. Let me just check the chat here. So again, sorry for the technical issues. Doesn't sound 3D printed. Well, so they do something to it. I don't know if they put it in an acid bath or something to get rid of the flash or the whatever, the debris around it, but they clean it up, they paint it. It's really strong. I bought resin figures and they look great, but they're just really brittle. So it could be I'm doing something wrong. If everyone tells me, oh, 3D printers are so cheap, they're so easy to use, I 3D print everything myself. Well, great, good for you. I don't have one. I know several people that have them, and most of those people just don't have the time, so it just sits in the box, or they put it together and they have to use it for something else. They can't. But once they get going, I may hit them up for some orders and say, listen, I'll compensate you for the time if you can print these up for me. But yeah, if you can do better, by all means do it. But I do want to show you, like, this is the quality you would get if you ordered from this company. Now, if you are going to print hundreds or thousands of these figures, the price goes down per unit. But I mean, I'm not printing that many. As you can see, I printed, let's see, 8 of those and 6 of those. So that's it. But I mean, if I'd done like several hundred of them, which why would I do that? I don't need that many. Yeah, then the price per unit would go down. But it's just like the cards. If I only print maybe like 200 cards, well, they're 50 cents a piece. But if I were printing, many more of them, they would be cheaper. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So we're having issues with the stream. I am going to be doing another stream tomorrow because I do have big news. So here's the story. So I was looking because I was starting to get curious about Space Crusade, StarQuest. And originally I thought, okay, this game is not for me. This is different than HeroQuest. This is not what I enjoy. But the more I studied it, the more I thought it'd be interesting, and the more it started to give me ideas for things that I could do with it regarding HeroQuest. So I was looking online to try to find a good deal. And because it's a game that's only available in Europe, really. I mean, it was never sold in North America. You pay through the nose for shipping. And because of COVID, there's all these issues with the mail. Like they're understaffed and they have all these safety regulations, so it takes forever to get anything overseas. So I knew that was going to be the factor, but I found this really great deal, and it was on Board Games Geek. Board Games Geek is, I mean, some people love that place, some people hate it. I realized just recently that, oh, they have a geek market. So fans of board games will sell their own board games there. And so I thought, what the hey? I'll see if anybody's selling Space Crusade, if I can find a good deal. And I found a really good deal. Like when you think about uh, Hero Quest. So Hero Quest, like if you're really lucky, you could get a $100 set, but most of the time it's going to be. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it like more of a neutral background here. Yeah, if you're trying to get Hero Quest, like $170 is probably what you would do. Probably what you would get. So let's say $170 for the game system, maybe a little extra for shipping. And in Keller's Keep, Return of the Witch Lord, probably 80 to 100 per. And these are just like open, used, maybe a little bit beat up. Um, Whereas Space Crusade, same condition, it's going to be like $230 just for the base set. And there were two expansions, Mission Dreadnought and Eldar Attack. Those are at least $100, sometimes more. But you got to think you're probably paying $20 to $50 for shipping these days. So I found a really good deal. I found a guy was selling an almost complete Space Crusade set and the first expansion, Eldar Attack. Now, it didn't have the box for the Eldar Attack, and I thought, you know what, that's okay. Because it's not a game I'm nostalgic about, so as long as the game is more or less complete, like, okay, there's a card missing, there's a couple tiles, I can replace those pretty easily and have a playable game. But yeah, it was a great deal, and the seller was very patient. Good communication. He's definitely getting a good review. I won't say his name on here because he asked me not to. Not going to plug him here, but yeah, it was in my mind. It was funny because it was delayed, and then the package was. I was like, is it lost? Is it going to be like? Because the whole plot of Space Crusade is these space hulks. You know, you've got these ships that disappear into warp space for centuries, and then they come back and they're all twisted and filled with chaos monsters. And so I thought, oh, that's what's going to happen in my package. It's like a live action version of the game. But no, after waiting for a month, uh, the latest update I got is that it'll be delivered tonight. So not in time for the stream, but for tomorrow. If it shows up, I'm going to do an unboxing, check the status, and honestly, if I see anything that's broken in there, that's just going to motivate me more to fix it up, clean it up, and make it into a playable game. So yeah, I've had all kinds of issues on the stream, and I apologize, but tomorrow I think will be better. So anything that I tried to talk about here that didn't show up properly because this video buffering nonsense, we'll remedy that next time. So let me just check and see if there were any other questions from anybody. I want to thank you all for joining us here on HeroQuest Fans. A lot of things in the works, not a lot of things completed, but that's okay. So I've been getting to do other things lately, getting together with family and friends, working on some other projects. But it's always good to get back to the board game stuff and talk about it. But what I'd really want to do is play it. And if we can share a game with you guys one of these times, I think that would be a dream come true. And I have lots of ideas for it. We just have to find the time and get the right people together to make it happen. So thanks for supporting me. Thanks for checking in and for your patience because, like I said, I didn't want to have to skip the stream last weekend, but we did. And we were a little late getting started today, and the system issues didn't help either. But hopefully that'll be cleared up next time. All right, so thank you again. Let me just say a fond farewell, and then we will pick up next time. So shout out to all of our viewers. We've got a service stop, Elion, Gas NPL, of course, returning member, Caxip S06, and Roxy. So I'll just throw this out there. Anyone have any questions for me? We will have a stream tomorrow. Expecting a copy of Space Crusade for unboxing. Hopefully then. Yeah, if for some reason it doesn't come, then we'll have to wait till next weekend. But yeah, I hope you, if you haven't already, please check out yieldin.com, Yieldin forums, and find us on Discord, HeroQuest fans on Discord. So I'll just put a little link. Oops. It's like my M key wasn't working. There we go. Yep. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next stream of HeroQuest fans. Thanks again for checking us out. Follow if you will. Check us out on YouTube also. XSC3, home of HeroQuest fans on YouTube. All right. That's it. See ya. Stay safe, everybody.